crazy.
You're too lucky.
I need to start at the beginning. We need to start with Ineos and the Glazers. Like, what they like, you actually have to look at this situation and just we have to go on the journey of Ineos and the Glazers, right? And the media's part in this. I never forget this, right? At the beginning, it was Ineos, Sir Jim versus Sir Jim versus Qatar. Yeah, don't know if they keep telling us, or Sheikh Jassim Real 90, they keep saying all that stuff. But there was a moment when Rio Ferdinand was at the train station, he's saying it's happening. Yeah, he was obviously speaking to somebody. So I want to go off the notion that the Qatar bid was somewhat, it was real, but we don't know who was behind the Qatar bid. But I never forget how everyone was acting. You know, they talked about sport washing and Qatar being bad for a Manchester club and wanted to keep it local. You know, basically waffle. It was waffle. It was total waffle, total agenda. It was, you know, sports washing this. Look how everyone's treated out. It was just basically it was like, you just don't want that in the Premier League again. That was the energy. And I found it strange, you know, because it's like, it's going to be better to be owned. Like, it's the jewel in the crown. All sorts of, you know, phrases that said it should be in the hands, that the custodian should be someone local, born and bred. Whenever you get into Manc born and bred, yeah, get worried, bro. Because I don't mind, like, don't get me wrong, yeah. We had that song for Marcus Rashford, Manc born and bred. I hear it, yeah. It's good. You know, you kind of want someone that understands from the area, connected to the people. I get that. I get the notion of that. But then when that's all you're putting on the CV, if that's it, you have to look at that closely. Because, well, what's going on here? Are you saying because I live here, I'm going to treat it better than someone that doesn't live here? Because we're looking at how Sir Jim and the rest of his cronies are treating the locals, and you wouldn't believe he was Manc born and bred, or even remembered being Manc born and bred. That's why the Manc fans came out and said, what the hell are you doing? The prices. You even starting off with a statement of, look at the price of the tickets at Fulham compared to the prices here. That doesn't make sense. You're allowing, you know, when it's like, oh, but Ineos, they're not really in control. Like, you can't blame Ineos for this. But then Ineos have got into bed with the Glazers, and they know, like, the Glazers, what's the Glazers' plan with the money? Are they going to reinvest? They must have had those conversations. Now you get all this buyout. What are you going to do? How much money from the buyout is going to go back into the company to make the company successful again? None of it. Really? Yeah, absolutely none of it. You're telling me we're going to pump this money into this club, into this thing that we now own with you, and you're putting nothing in? Absolutely nothing. So how are we going to make this work? How are we going to make this club or the business we're doing make sense? How are we going to make this club successful again? We're not. Wait. What? That's what's good. There must have been, you know, when they had to open up the books, when they had to open up the books and show them what's going on here, because they looked and they had to see the gaps. They said, wow, this club is being run. And I'm not don't get me wrong, I am not blaming Ineos for like the financial situation of the club. But they decided, they looked at the finances and said, we want a piece of this. Now, my understanding is, well, what did you lot want to do? When we heard from the 9-2 Foundation, yeah, they basically said, we're going to do, there was a dossier. Immediately pay off the debt. We're gonna have a plan for all the team. From youth, we're gonna have a plan for the stadium. We have a whole complete plan for this club. This is what we're on. This is how we want to build this thing. That's Man United. Yeah. The other guy said, want to put Manchester back in Manchester. Bro, every single day, they're taking it out. They got rid of Sir Alex. Now, you can say however you feel about that, but they got rid of Sir Alex. I would say that that's really Manchester, really. The disabled, you know, when you talking about the disabled fans, and then you're talking about the ticket prices and stuff, they're making it harder to access. They're making it harder for the locals to access Man United. It doesn't make sense. Now they say, you know, we're going to bring the best in class. And we're like, the best in class? Well, why is this our strike force? What is going on? Then they say, all right, we're gonna make sure from top to bottom the right people making the right decisions. But then they again, one of the part of the DNA of the club is homegrown. Homegrown. Now Rashford was going anyway. I'm not really too fussed about Rashford, and I get it. Let's sort out the salaries, yeah. But then you're selling our young players who are important. Garnacho on the chopping block. Kobe on the chopping block. Still will be on the chopping block. Man United fans saying it's a good thing. Sell these players. Why? Why should we sell those players? Man United have always sold their best players. Really? Tell me who? What young progressing player a Man United sold when they were trying to compete for stuff? I know other clubs did, but when, like, who are you talking about? A young player that is a potential first teamer. He's getting sold. Who? When? I don't understand. When did we become Everton? When did we have to start selling players? It doesn't make sense. When did we become that? Man United. We used to go and enjoy other teams that were in financial crisis. And we're only in financial crisis because the people upstairs don't want to look after the debt. They don't want to do the right thing. They don't want to, they're not interested. The custodians, the people that own the club, Glazers and Ineos, have decided we're just going to keep cutting from other departments. So this money, that just imagine they made a better decision with the Ten Hag thing, yeah? You wouldn't even have to make these cuts. You wouldn't have to make these cuts. More cuts, ticket prices go up. We're still shit. Make that make sense. But then for this club to be good again, it's going to take a dramatic overhaul. Not a normal overhaul, a dramatic one. For you brought in a manager who needs certain players to the system, yeah? You need certain players. You knew what you was getting when you brought this guy in. Only a fool would say, like, only a fool would literally bring in a manager like this who needs a complete overhaul and just say, because you're going to make him, you're exposing this guy, really. You're going to expose Amorim because Amorim doesn't have the pieces to do what he wants to do to this team. Or either you're asking for a very patient, an extremely patient approach to this, which means low finishes in the table. For this to take over, for this to work, Amorim needs to spend close to, I don't know, 300 million. Complete overhaul. And hope that's again, that's just to get you in the conversation. I don't even know if that gets you the title. But for it to really make sense, that is perfect scouting, wonderful in the market, making no mistakes on signings. None at all. I think I've even undercooked it when I talk about the price. It doesn't make sense, bro. I really do not understand Ineos and the Glazers. Ineos, if you knew you lot couldn't go ban for ban, shouldn't have got involved. Let's be real. Glazers, let them sink. You lot gave them the option. They clearly didn't have any options. It would have been, they would have to go back to market again. They would have to. They were waiting for the deal. Ineos is giving them the get out of jail free card because they were so desperate to get in. But now they're like, well, what can we do? But Ineos, like, no one forced you to get into this situation. You saw what they was on. You saw. Now you guys are taking the fall for this situation. And you're like, why is everyone blaming us for? Brother, if Man United do not win these competitions, we're going to be in serious problems. If we don't win the FA Cup, if we don't win the Europa, if we don't have European football, Man United, we're stuffed. We are. And you're going to see more important players go out the door. Man United fans that are upset with Amorim, you need to force yourself to like Amorim, because guess what? Man United can't afford to get rid of him. They can't afford it. They can't. We're still paying to get rid of Ten Hag. Yeah? There's probably other managers that we're paying to get rid of. It's dark times. It's a buckling situation. It's all out. Our strike force is, and I'm not even shitting on Rasmus and Xerxes in this moment. Our strike force is Rasmus Højlund and Xerxes. Right behind them, Garnacho and Ahmad. That's to let you know how far this club has fallen. That's our team. Rasmus Xerxes, Garnacho, Ahmad, Bruno. Man United. That's crazy. You can't, nah. We couldn't do anything in the market. We couldn't even bring in a light loan. We couldn't afford to bring in a player to help us on loan. Gio. You lot? I even think maybe complaining about the manager is maybe a bit stupid, personally. Really, I think it might be stupid. We are getting rid of people. Like, the queues to get into the ground now is getting ridiculous. It's getting ridiculous. The help is not there. You're telling me if they're getting rid of them, how can you revamp the squad? How? It's youngsters. Right now, it's all about the youngsters. That's it. That's all Man United can do. Amorim has to make a wonderful meal out of whatever's in the cabinet, whatever's in the pantry. Brother, cook something. And that's why patience is needed.